Well, hello, Facebook. This is Amy Colemansberger, and I am going live today for the first time. I don't know how this is going to go because I have a son at home and a very neurotic dog. So we're just going to jump in and see how it works. It's a beautiful day here in South Carolina. It is going to be 77. I'm getting ready to go on my walk and take my son out to eat lunch. And so I am very excited for a Slow Tuesday. My other 5 children are at hey Amy, are at a homeschool co-op today. So Tuesdays are my quiet day. So if I decide that I'm going to do these lives in the future, then Tuesday is going to be my day. Let's see, I'm going to say just a little bit about myself, and I've got notes in front of me because I have not done this before, and so if I keep looking down and say so a million times and all that, y'all just have grace. This is, tiny bit nerve-wracking. I have been married to Mike for almost 20 years, this May, and we have 6 children from 18 down to 5. We home educate them, along with them going to a co-op 2 days a week. I love to cook and read and create and make cozy spaces. And I love to write, and I love to reflect, and I love to share those things with others. I process my life through writing, and my essays can be found at middlemercies.com, and that is where I blog for women in the middle years of life and mothering and faith. I'm testing out Facebook Live because I wanted to find new ways to connect with my readers, and Facebook has gotten so awful lately, and I hate it because I have always loved Facebook. Ever since I got on, 9-10 years ago? I don't even know now, but it's always been such a great place to connect with old friends and new friends and people in my town and now blog readers, and so I want to make Facebook a pleasant place to be again and not so angry and fighting and drama. I want to be a no drama person on Facebook. That's been one of my goals since I first started. Facebook was to try to be a gentle presence there and to bring grace and rest to people there. And so all these years later, that's still my goal. And I think that that's what we need more than ever on Facebook, is just people who provide peace and kindness and rest. So I hope that I'm that for you all. As I'm thinking about Facebook Live, I'm contemplating maybe doing 2 a month, maybe doing one that's from my heart, which this one will be more of like reflections, kind of like my essays on my blog, and the other one being more practical. So this one is going to be about our capacity does not equal our calling. And the next one that I'd like to do would be on my planning. Some of y'all have talked about wanting to know more about my Sunday night evening planning process, and so I thought I'd share with you about my planner that I use and my power sheets and my bullet journal and kind of how I marry all those together to try to live very small but very intentional. That is one of my goals. My life has gotten too big the past few years, which I will begin to talk about. And so I want to talk about how I order my week. And so those are my thoughts right now, is to do this twice a month and see how it goes. So today I wanted to talk about our capacity doesn't equal our calling. In other words, just because I can doesn't mean that I should. And I think as women, we all struggle with this. It is just so easy to say yes. And a few years ago, I'll be 44 in May, and a few years ago when I turned 40, I just started realizing, it's the whole midlife crisis thing. My kids were getting older. I had teenagers. I still had little guys, but my teens could watch them for a couple hours while I did errands or go meet someone for lunch. I just started realizing that I had more time than I had when my children were little. And when my first 4 were small, I started to become very guarded with my time. I started reading and contemplating a lot about margin and simplicity and really living within my limits. And I did that really well. For years, I kept our schedule pretty limited and pretty small, and I really led a home-centered life. And of course, as your kids get older and they get involved in more outside activities, you've got that juggling act of trying to provide for their needs and their growth and their social desires, and yet honoring who you are and your limits and what you can actually handle as a human. And so, our doors started to become open more, and we started getting involved in more things, and that was all great. But what started happening is I began to slowly, over time, fill up my days. And what that looked like is I began to do more women's ministry, which is wonderful. I love women's ministry. And I started to get more consumed with that. It took up more of my thoughts about who can I serve today? Who can I give today? And whoever that person was usually someone outside of my home. That's where my mind went, of what woman could use love and care and encouragement today. And that's still a deep heart of mine, but I've just seen how I moved into unhealthy ways of doing that, because my first love and my first fruits of giving and generosity began to be directed towards women outside of my home, when really those first fruits needed to be still focused here. And so I started doing more women's ministry. I started spending a lot more time on my phone. I became very accessible to people throughout the day, people that I love dearly. And I would grab lunch several times a week, and I just began to operate in such a way that if I had the time, then I was willing to do it. So if somebody asked me for my time, if I didn't see anything written on my calendar, I would say yes, because it was fun, and I had been in my home for years, and I felt a sense of freedom, and it made me feel like an adult. And, there was lots of good needs that were being met for me as well through that. And there was a sense of entitlement there that, oh my gosh, I've sacrificed all these years and now it's my time, to get out and do what I want. Very natural, selfish response. And it just became unbalanced. And what I wrote down was, the problem was that my life and my emotions began to be a constant stream of availability, service, and care without many spaces to be refilled. And my heart was torn between the responsibilities of homeschooling and then my friends in women's ministry and serving. And at every turn, I was looking for opportunities to love and to give without consistent spaces of rest, refilling, and quiet. Now, did I have the scheduling capacity for this? Yes, I did. My schedule did allow it. Could I fit all of that in? Yes, I actually could. I managed my time in such a way that I could do all those things. But was that where my calling was and where I should have been? Not necessarily. And I buy Emily Lay's Simplified Planner each year, and I just read her book called Grace Not Perfection. And she says we've been sold a lie that the good life is the full life, busy life, but the good life is actually the slow and simple spaces. And man, I've written about that for years, and that's a heartbeat for mine, but I had really gotten away from that and not realized it. And so I wrote down 3 reasons that I've seen in the last 6 to 8 months of why I need to live slower and with margin and not live at the maximum of my capacity, because I do have a high capacity to do a lot of things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to all be filled up. There needs to be white space. There needs to be margin. Years ago, I read the book by Dr. Richard Swenson called Margin, and it's still one of my top 10 life-changing books ever. And that was before margin even became a bit of a buzzword, but it was just, you have to live within your limits. You have to realize that you're a human and that you have very real physical, emotional, and spiritual limits. And if you keep living at the edge of those limits, you will burn out. And I have twice, and it is awful and not pretty at all. And so I wrote down that the first reason is that living at our maximum capacity for noise and giving and doing leaves no room for life, for when life brings the unexpected. And we really don't budget in our lives for the unexpected. A lot of times we don't financially budget for the unexpected. I know that we have been very bad at that. But we don't also emotionally budget for the unexpected. And so When the trials come in life and when loss comes in life, which it does, they seem to come out of nowhere. But that's a normal part of life, so we should expect it. If we're living at or beyond our means, we really don't have the emotional and time space to walk through that valley well. Usually it's like the undoing of us. And so we need to leave room in our lives for the inevitable trials and the inevitable losses. I had really pared down my life in 2016. God spoke so clearly to me that I needed to stop doing if gathering. I needed to completely reorient the way that I use my phone, that I needed to be very careful about my schedule. And, my brother died in October, and what I was amazed about in that is that I actually had the space in my life to give that grief and that loss what it deserved, the attention that it requires to grieve, that I actually had room to think about my brother, to grieve the losses in our relationship over the years, the ways that our relationship could have been better or more healthy, and that I had space in my life to ruminate on that and to make new choices in my life to reflect the lessons that I was learning through grief. And if my schedule had been maxed out during that time, I can't even imagine how hard and awful that would have been. And so we need to give space for when life brings trials and the unexpected, because they will come. We're guaranteed them. We also need space for resting and healing when we or our families get sick, which this is kind of the unexpected, have a tough week with school, or they have deadlines. There are cycles that I've learned to the school year that always come. February is normally stomach bug month. We have not gotten it this year. We did not get it last year, but we have been known in the other years to get stomach bugs. And so stomach bugs come, colds come, flus come. They do it every year. Exams, now that I have high schoolers, are a part of life. Our kids are going to have friendship problems that they need our counsel and our presence with, or dating problems, and they're going to have very real deadlines for projects. Like the science fair, which we all know that I hate projects in schooling. So if I don't leave space in my life for the inevitable projects that my children have, they're not going to be done well, and my children are not going to be supported well. If my life is so busy that I can't be kind and present and caring when they come down with a stomach bug, how am I living my life then? And I wrote down, if my schedule is filled, then I don't have the emotional or physical reserves to walk through that season with grace and presence and guidance. And that's one of my goals as a mom. I really want to walk through my kids' journeys with them as a voice of grace and presence, and to guide them well. And if I am busy and distracted by ministry or my phone or the needs of others, I am going to push them away, or I'm going to say, get over it, or push them onto someone else. And I'm the one that they need when they're walking through that. Our kids need us as a coach to walk through these spaces. And if we're chronically harried or distracted by our phones, then we really can't give them those resources well. Ask me how I know. I feel like I lost 2 years of intentional presence with my kids by being ever present on my phone. It is humbling. I have grieved last summer over that. It's a deep loss for me. And, last year I read Shauna Niequist's book, Present Ever Perfect, and I know most of y'all have heard of this book before, and there was a lot of buzz over it last year, but this book hit me at a time when God was already speaking these messages to my soul. And so when I read it, I was like, yes, this is right. This is true. I will obey. And, I'm a doer. Presence does not come naturally to me. On the Myers-Briggs, I'm a J. So I like task. I like doing over being and presence. And, I can talk a good presence game, but I don't necessarily do it. And so I was really, really deeply convicted about that last year. And I think it was just recognizing that my oldest is 18 and my daughter is 16. And I'm just seeing how they are rapidly moving into a new stage of life, and that as a family we would be transitioning into a new season. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to miss it. I don't want to give the best of my time to women and walking them through their transitions when I've got these kids who are going through their big transitions. And I need to be their transitions in life, and what they're going through needs to be my number one. And then whatever I have left over, then I could give to other people. So that's been a big thing for me this year. Oh, Janie, thanks so much. And Sherry, hey, thank you. My third thing is we have to have spaces in our lives for listening to God and to others well. Namely, first of all, our husbands and our children, and then others. Unhurried and focused. And there has to be room in my life for my soul to fill up with the deep love of God, and for abiding and for slow listening to Him. That, for me, doesn't happen in like 10 minutes. It just doesn't. It takes room. Like, that was one of the motivations for me to have my kids at the Homeschool Academy, is because I am one of those that needs space to listen and to think and to reflect. And I'm an extrovert, introvert. I'm right on the line. But if you've ever heard of the highly sensitive person, I am that. And so I require more time to decompress, to make sense of my world, my environment. And so, I can't carve out 10 minutes in the mornings to spend with the Lord. Like, I have to plan hours. I have to write it on the schedule that, and talk to Mike. Like, I need a Saturday morning. I need to go and be. And so if I have filled that up with too many extracurricular activities or too many ways of serving, then I don't have the space to get in touch with God's love and to be really filled up with that. I am currently reading Lisa Turker's book, Uninvited, and she says fullness comes to us when we remember to be with Him before going out to serve Him. He wants our hearts to be in alignment with Him before our hands set about doing today's assignment for Him. And man, I am one of those that I do for God. I love doing for God. That's how I relate to God, is I will work for you. And the withness, the being with God, is something that I struggle with because I've sought to get my worth through doing. And so being, I'm like, what am I bringing to the table? What are we doing? I'm always like, what's the purpose? So I am really learning that the fullness comes from learning to be with Him. And for me, it's being with Him in unhurried ways. It's not checklist for me. Like, I can't just, read a quick passage and say a little prayer and feel like I've been with God. Like, one of my love languages is quality time. And so quality time for me with Mike isn't 5 minutes. Like, we like to go out on a date night. We both are quality time people. And so I need time with Mike. And it's the same with the Lord. I have to have some time with Him. It can't be checkbox for me. That's my personality. And so, I try to take a walk every afternoon. I've gotten bad the last 6 weeks about it. But if I can take about a 45-minute walk and keep it quiet, I can easily use that time to get on my phone. So I have to really be disciplined and either not take my phone with me or put it in the back of my pants and not touch it and just spend time with the Lord. No agenda, no major prayers, no major meditating, just being with the Lord, just being in His presence. And that's can be challenging for those of us who like to produce. So those are my 3 things. We need to make room in our lives for the unexpected. We need to make room in our lives for the invariable things that happen in our kids' lives, which is sickness, exams, deadlines, projects. We need to have space so we can really coach them through those things well. And we need space to listen to the Lord and listen well to our families and give them our full presence. I love the whole 80-20 rule where, it's like 20% of the people usually do 80% of the work. That's not a good one. But I love thinking about leaving 20% of your schedule free for breathing, listening, connecting, for spontaneity, for when the Lord asks you to do something or prompts in your heart to serve someone and you have the space for it. We need that 20% for trials that come, for losses, for unexpected stress. If we have a really full weekend, we need to have space the next week to recover from that weekend. So when we look at our planners, when we look at our lives, we need to be saying, where's my 20%? One way this year that I'm doing that is I'm really trying to honor the Sabbath. I read a great book that I mentioned in my newsletter, Rhythms of Rest by Shelley Miller, and it's excellent. And another great book on Sabbath is called The Rest of God by Mark Buchanan. That was the first book I really read on Sabbath that really resonated with me. And so for me, what that looks like is trying to go unplugged Saturday night until Sunday dinner. So I'm trying to do a 24-hour time, but starting like dinner to dinner. And I am really seeking to be unplugged during that time. Yesterday I was traveling and I forgot that it was Sunday and I was like, oh, I'm on my phone. But that has been incredibly life-giving. I also try not to cook on that day. I try to have leftovers, or we just pick up frozen stuff to reheat. We had a long time tradition of doing chili dogs for lunch. Like, we were very low maintenance on Sunday. And use paper plates, like try to keep chores to a minimum. And then Sunday night after dinner, I do planning for the week, because it's not good for me to go into Monday without knowing what my week looks like. So that's a way that I keep part of my 20%, is to keep 24 hours of being screen-free, and I don't plan to do chores, I don't do grocery shopping, I don't order my life, like I just try to be present. And not in a legalistic way, like it's going to look different for every single person, what Sabbath is going to look like. And then I really try to leave my Tuesdays, this is my Tuesday, and I really try to leave it free. I try not to schedule things at all on this day. I don't go grab lunch with people. I stay present with my son John here, and I just try to keep it quiet. I've never had a day like this in all my years of mothering, and I saw how quickly it would be easy for me to fill this day up, and I am so strongly holding on to it, and it's such a sweet, sweet, sweet part of my week. So let's see. On Saturday, a couple days ago, I did look at my schedule for this week, and I saw that it was pretty empty, and it was pretty quiet, and my first inclination, just out of nowhere, was to start filling it up. I started thinking, oh, well, what can I do this week? Who could I, la, 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 la. Like, all of a sudden, I was just ready to make it busy. And I thought, shouldn't I be more busy? Should I have a week? Is it allowed to have a week that's not that busy? And I really felt the nudge of the Spirit tell me to keep it calm and to keep it empty. And because my life is full, whether the schedule or my to-do list says so or not, my life is full with my husband. My life is full with 6 children and their education. My life is full with meals and feeding people every night. We've got Valentine's coming up, and so I want to have space in my life to actually do something fun for my family, which normally I don't, because I've got too many other things going on. My life is full with managing a home for 8 people and connecting with my family in the everyday ways. So when I looked at my schedule and I thought, oh, my week's empty. No, it's actually very full with my family, my relationships here, with running my home well. And so I really don't have the space that I think that I have just because my schedule isn't full on my calendar. And I really want to have space in my life to read a book to my children when they ask. I don't want to push my little guys away and say, Mommy can't right now, Mommy's got to do this. I want to have enough hours in my day and enough space and availability that I can say, sure, go grab 3 books. I can take 15 minutes to read. I want to have space to go out to the yard to see Luke's current projects. Luke is 7, and his big thing right now is building things. He's built all these random platforms in our backyard. He's built this crazy little wheelbarrow. He's got projects going on constantly. He begs Mike to take him to Lowe's to buy more wood. And so normally when my kids have wanted to show me their projects, I'm like, well, mommy's got a la la la, I'm busy. And now I'm like, yeah, show me. I'd love to see it. And so I have space to walk outside and to watch how the wheelbarrow works with the training wheels from an old bike, and see his platforms with chicken wire wrapped around them. I want to be the mom that has space to read books, to look at their projects, to listen to my daughter when she wants input on wording for a text. I just want room to connect. And I've realized that you can't schedule presence. You just can't. You can't to-do the spontaneous moments when children want to connect. You can't do it. You can't schedule presence. You've just got to leave room in your life and show up. So to end this, just because we can doesn't mean we should. We need to leave space for the unexpected, for sickness, school deadlines, for listening and filling with the love of God. And before we say yes to another time filler, we need to wait. That's my word for the year. Wait. We need to pray. We need to stop being impulsive with our time due to people pleasing or trying to gain worth from being productive or from anxiety that this has to get done right now. I love how Ann Voskamp's always said life is not an emergency. I have to tell myself that regularly. Nothing's going to go to hell in a handbasket if I read a book to a child. It's just not. When we are trying to make a decision, when someone's asked us to do something, or internally we come up with something we want to do, a great thing that I have said to other people is let me talk to my husband first. He loves for me to say that, and it buys time. So if someone asks me to do something, instead of saying, yeah, I think I can do that, or yeah, I instead am trying to say, let me talk to Mike about that. Or let me go home and look at my schedule and let me get back to you. You don't have to say yes or no right then. Say, I need some space. I need some time before I decide. On my blog, I've just started a monthly newsletter that is sharing what I've learned that month and current books and recipes and tips and resources that I found that month. If you want to receive that, you can go to my blog. And why I'm telling you that is because you'll receive a PDF of a post that I wrote a while back that people really seem to resonate with, called Creating an Emotional Budget. And so I wanted to make it into a PDF so it wouldn't get lost in my archives and you could print it out. And it's got questions on there that help you recognize your limits and learn how to spend yourself wisely. So that is Creating an Emotional Budget, and that's at my blog, middlemercies.com. I want to thank y'all for listening to me today and for your grace as I learn a new way of communicating. And in the comments below, you can leave any thoughts that you have, anything that resonated with you. I would love to hear questions, anything. Let me know what you thought, if I need to make it shorter, longer, anything you want to say. That would be great. I'm going to get off now and go take a walk on this gorgeous day and take my son out to eat lunch. That's our Tuesday thing now, is for the two of us to go grab lunch. And he said today, why don't we get lunch and go eat it outside somewhere? It's so pretty. And so I said, yes, that's what we're going to do. And then I've actually got a massage scheduled. I haven't had a massage in like 4 years. And I had met with a counselor in the fall, and I've stopped meeting with her. She felt like our time was done and that I'd gotten unstuck from where I was stuck. And so I decided to take that money that I had pulled for counseling and to get a massage. So I'm super excited about that. And then I've got to go to my kids' school and have a meeting for moms of high school seniors. So that is my day, and then we'll do Taco Tuesday. So share with me too what you're eating for dinner tonight. I've just gone back to Taco Tuesday. It's just simple. I don't want to think about Tuesdays anymore. We have scouts on Tuesdays, and so that's a quick meal where everybody can eat before Mike needs to head out the door with the two middle kids, Will and Luke, for scouts. So I hope y'all have a lovely Tuesday and that you are being filled with the love of the Lord today, and that you can create some space to sense His love for you, and that you can make space to really connect with your husband and kids today. I'll talk to you later.